guys, welcome back to the Natty Scene, and your hosts AJ Morris, Vicky Masita are back for another update. I hope you're all good, enjoying potentially some sun in the UK, and just getting on with whatever you're doing in terms of your bodybuilding, fitness, careers at the moment. I don't know what I'm saying.
Has AJ not had his morning coffee today? Is that what it is?
Vicky, I've had no caffeine in about 8 days. So,
oh, really?
Yeah. Yeah, Deload.
Oh, yeah, you did say that actually.
Deload,
yeah,
no
sorry,
caffeine.
I didn't.
Deload, no caffeine.
So why are we taking out all of the caffeine?
Oh, because caffeine is a tool. Caffeine is a tool. We need to use it very, very wisely, and people don't. Like we talked about before, it's not only an appetite suppressant, but it's also very pro-inflammatory. And the goal of a deload is to take down inflammation. So if you're drinking caffeine, especially I see people having coffee post-workout. Like, no, you don't do that.
No.
If you want to reduce inflammation maximally and actually use the deload as what it's meant to be, you take out caffeine. I have all my clients either taper or take out caffeine completely in a deload. Deload caffeine, deload training, great place to be after the deload. But not many people do that, and that's what we're going to talk about today.
Cool.
So yeah, how are you, Vicky? How's your week been? Be very honest and upfront with people as to how your week has actually been, and then we'll go from there.
I love how you say be honest and open. I'm always honest and open.
True.
I'm always honest and open. All right, so let's go for a positive then. First of all, right, positive things. My sleep has been epic.
Yeah. Like
full on epic. To the point where I was getting so ticked off that I wasn't actually sleeping, and it was still doing me head in. I was doing a lot of research. You know that I like reading the books and looking at the graphs and things like that.
Graphs.
Graphs. And so I was doing some research, and basically there was a few studies that came out saying that if you have more exposure to daylight pre-noon, then you actually sleep a lot better. So I normally split up my walks throughout the day, because obviously I've got a big dog and he needs walking a lot. So I normally walk him in the morning after my breakfast, if I'm not kind of rushing off doing something or other, just around the block, and all the rest of it. And then I'll walk him again later on in the evening. But I just thought, well, I'll try and implement this and get some more exposure to daylight before noon and see if that actually helps. So I've been taking him out at 6 in the morning, and then taking him out again at around 10 o'clock. And then, so that was about it. And then I go for a little walk myself, probably to the gym or just around the place or whatever, or just sit outside just for 10 minutes. And you know what? Since implementing that last week, the sleep's been epic.
Oh, wow. Interesting.
It's been mental. And it's just that tiny little change. So I did put that on my story yesterday. So I've just by swapping over a lunchtime walk to another morning walk, it's actually really helped my sleep. So, if it's working, I'm going to carry on doing it, right? So even though that's a scientific study and it might not be the same for absolutely everybody, it's working for me. So anecdotal evidence is obviously saying that I'm going to keep doing it, which is good. Negative-wise, this week's just been a shit week, really. And it's because I have been attacked by the bloating fairy again. No idea why. I can't get any cleaner with my food because I've taken everything out. So I just think my intestines are dappy ducked, basically. So because of the bloating, that's obviously had a knock-on domino effect where I'm feeling like pissed off and irritable and sluggish and really tired through the day. Sure. Because the bloating does make you really tired as well. And just not wanting to eat either. But I've still managed to obviously pack in all my food, which obviously doesn't help with the bloat. But yeah, so that's it. And then starting to get these little niggles because I am still training hard, so everything hurts at the minute. So I think we are implementing the deload strategy coming probably today, which is nice. Oh, and I also want to give a shout out to my husband, Scott. It's his birthday today.
Oh, happy birthday, Scott.
Yeah, so that's nice, isn't it?
Awesome.
So I thought, oh yeah, let's do that. Yeah. So apart from that, it's quite nice. So I might actually use the deload excuse to not train today, depending on how we're feeling and stuff. So I can actually spend the afternoon with my hubby on his birthday because he's buggering off tonight and spending his birthday evening with his dad rather than his wife.
Oh, God damn it.
Yeah, I know, right? So shout out to Scott. That's why I woke you up at 5:30 in the morning with your cake. But other
Awesome.
than that, yeah, you know me. I'm sound. I'm always happy. I'm always spreading the love, as they say. So, how about you? How's your week gone?
Cool. Yeah, so my week is almost like a role reversal of yours. I've been already deloading. So I was saying in the recent updates that I kind of was spotting fatigue creep up a little bit. And I've got to the point where I can sort of just spot it in the nick of time so that I don't get to the point where I feel horrendous, but I get to the point where niggles start to creep in and lifts are still moving forwards. They haven't gone backwards yet, and I can then implement it and before everything starts going backwards, essentially. Because I've done it before where I just keep pushing and pushing and pushing and then everything starts to head backwards. Whether it's performance, my mood, or everything, just something at some point will take a hit. And so yeah, I deloaded from Monday to, I'm taking Saturday and Sunday completely off. When I deload, I like to implement a little bit of both, not training, so taking days off, and also a reduction in volume and intensity. So how my deload looks is I take a set off each exercise and I reduce the load on the bar so that I'm falling ideally 2 reps in reserve or maybe even more. The importance of removing load off the bar is very high in my opinion, because I've had some clients say to me, "Oh, I prefer deloading but keeping the weight the same," and then the next week they tell me they're still fucked. The reason being is because physiologically your ability to get under a bar that's super heavy or with relative max loading to yourself is high. That the amount of willpower it takes to do that is high. So you tax yourself psychologically. You also tax yourself from a central nervous system point of view by relation to the load on the bar. So taking the load down, in my opinion, is something you want to be doing. If you're going after numbers that you've never hit before, kind of thing, and you're progressively overloading, you want to be taking the load down on the bar, because otherwise next week when you come off the back of the deload, you're going straight into numbers that you've already done. You're just doing it again.
Yeah.
And that's what everyone will say, "Oh, I'm deloading," and then they don't deload. The main movements that you want to look at, for example, my deadlifts the other day, I usually on a normal day I would hit I hit 180 on a normal day. I hit 5,557. On my deload, I hit 160 for 6, 170 for 6, 180 for 4, done. So 3 sets and working up to 180, but only for 1 set and way less reps than I'd usually take it for. That was the only thing where I didn't necessarily, on the last set, I didn't necessarily reduce the loading comparative to my previous week. However, there's a caveat to that, because my deadlift numbers have been coming up significantly. This week, if I wasn't deloading, I'd be at 185.
Yeah.
And all my other stuff, for example, bench press, I was hitting 100 for 6s before deload. I hit 90 for 3 sets of 6 yesterday. So this is just giving people an idea as to how I'm taking numbers down with relevance to my weights.
Yeah, so you're not exactly taking 50% off the bar, for example. No. You're still actually training, but you're just not hitting that CNS, in a massive fashion, aren't you?
Yeah, I go by feel, to be honest, Vic. And then also, me and Steve were having a back and forth discussion the other day about whether we should look at doing new movements in a deload week, and whether that would be a silly idea. And whilst it's we both agreed, whilst it's potentially a silly idea from the perspective of a new movement potentially causing some novel soreness, the intensity at which you'd be doing that new movement would be low anyway, because your level of practice with that movement would be low. Sure. So your ability to really chase after a really hard set is going to be minimal anyway. So I did safety bar squats on one of my leg days, because as I'd been talking about in previous episodes, my anterior delts, elbows and everything was just fucked to oblivion. I could barely press on some of my days because my forearms were ruined and my elbows sucked. So I took the back squat out completely this week. No back squatting at all, just to give everything a rest. And by yesterday, Wednesday, that was not yesterday. By midweek, everything was fine, and I have no niggles. That's the goal of the deload, is to completely dissipate niggles. So where you're at right now, Vic, is deload will just fix everything, hopefully. But what most people don't sort of see is that by the end of the week they're still doing deload sessions, still doing too much, and they've still got the niggles, and they're still carrying training fatigue, and they've essentially just done a moderate week. So you've just wasted your time. You really have, because you'll just have to deload again sooner. That's what I always think about when I deload, is make this fucking easy so that I can do 12 weeks of really hard work. Or even more, and that, for some people, that's ridiculous, because some people look at making mesocycles in a 4-to-1 paradigm. Like they train for 4 weeks and deload in the 5th or the 6th or whatever.
Yeah, I don't get that, but they kind of accumulate.
Personally, I don't agree with that.
No, and they accumulate their sets though as well, don't they? So by doing that, or some people do.
That's the goal.
I just find it a bit weird. It's just like, get to a point where you're making substantial progress and then take a big step back.
Yeah, I mean, I can see part of the reasoning why they might want to do that, again, just to accumulate to the point at which they find that maximal work. But in my opinion, what I deem as good work over the course of a training block is finding almost like a middle ground between not being completely fucked and feeling still pretty good, and just holding that for a bit. Why not just hold that relative intensity and workload and volume, just hold it and keep working and working and working and working, and making sort of slow increments in progression and progressive overload. That to me would make up a more productive amount of work over the long term than spending almost half your year deloading, you know, or half your year doing back off. And then if you look at all the other 4 weeks that you've accumulated, were those maximal? Were those maximal work weeks? Could you have done more?
If you're trying to accumulate it.
Could you have done more?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you think about it, if we compare that to a dieting phase, you do exactly the same thing, don't you? You progress. If you're looking at gaining, you progressively overload, and then you kind of hold that weight for a little bit, and then start progressing again, or take your deload, which is obviously backing off a little bit, and then start again. And the same thing with dieting as in dieting down. So you put your maximal effort in, you then hold that weight for a little bit to harden up, just like we were talking about previously, and then you go again, and it's all in stages. It should marry up realistically.
But then again, some people will have other approaches to dieting where they every certain amount of time they'll implement a diet break, which again, I'm of the opinion that with diet breaks and with deloads, the most efficient way to implement a diet break or a deload is through some element of auto-regulation. The idea, in my personal opinion, of deloading or diet breaking with sort of a set time, so a set structure. So after this amount of time, I will diet break, or after this amount of time, I will deload. It's nice on paper, but I don't think that's optimal when you're using those phases for a reason. So if the reason's not validated, if the reasoning's not there to diet break or deload, why do it? I just don't think that sets you up for the best approach.
Absolutely.
Personally, whenever I've diet braked or deloaded someone, it's purely been based off feedback. It's not been based off, we've reached week 4, let's diet break. It's okay, you're feeling a little bit shit, your weight loss has potentially slowed, you're feeling really hungry, your physique almost looks like it's retaining a film of water kind of thing, your sessions are going to shit. That's diet break. And in most diet breaks like that, they end up losing more scale weight because the signs are there for it. You know, there's a need, there's a warrant for that diet break to come in.
Exactly. I was having this exact same conversation. One of my girls is having a photo shoot on Sunday. And every single week or every single day, I sent you some pictures of her actually, didn't I? From her changes from morning through till night. Yeah. And she looks sick.
Yeah.
But basically, so she's been sending me pictures every single day this week, all the way through the day, so I can see the changes, because it was like, well, when is the most optimal time for you to go and have this photo shoot? Because it's not booked at a particular time.
Sure.
So we were like, okay, so playing around with this. Anyway, obviously we're 2 days out now, and she's like, what am I going to do about this? And what am I going to do about that? And what am I going to do about the other? So I said, I'll send you a game day protocol, what we're going to do. And obviously did my video like I always do, you know, for my client updates and stuff. And at the end of it, I literally just said, this is not set in stone.
Yeah.
This might literally change in the morning. So I just want you to be prepared for this. This idea is great on paper, but if you kind of wake up in the morning and you're watery because of some kind of reaction, she also lives in Gibraltar, so it's very hot there as well. Wow. So the temperature's going to have some kind of play into it. Then obviously she's going to send me a picture in the morning, and I'm going to say, right, we're changing the whole plan. This is now what we're going to do, you know? So again, like you were just saying, the most optimal plan is the one based on the biofeedback that your body gives. Not the one that's written on paper, which is the reason why cookie cutter workout sheets and that kind of thing just do not work.
Yeah, agreed, for sure. Yeah, 100%. I in a similar position, I have a client competing this weekend, and to be fair, you know, with him being a physique athlete, there's less going on. So, you know, they're not as lean as bodybuilding athletes. So the variables to play are less so in terms of, you know, whether they're going to be holding more water, whether he's going to, you know, have this line versus not having that line kind of thing. The extent at which you are lean, so the amount of conditioning you have is normally the warrant for playing about with things. It's why it almost pisses me off a bit when I see ridiculous protocols and peak weeks for, you know, essentially under very, very low level of muscularity people, you know, and I'm not being harsh, but, you know, there's not many bikini athletes that are super high muscularity, because if they were, they'd be figure athletes. So the amount of the variables that I see some athletes that are in bikini changing, it just doesn't, for me, make sense, because your body and the way that you react to things is, because of your level of muscularity, is actually quite small, because you know the relevance of you being flat versus full, the difference is you could probably hardly see it to the naked eye. I mean, maybe with a very high level, pretty muscular bikini athlete, yeah, you probably could see a difference between very flat, very full. But then I think half them worry about it too much and end up just looking shit because they stress. They worry about things, and they worry about the protocol that their coach is doing. I mean, you know, I had one sort of consult with a bikini girl that, you know, got told to drink 8 liters of water like one day out, and she said that she just, her midsection and her overall midsection control was just minimal. My physique athlete, the guy that I'm competing, the goal for him is just to keep his waist and his midsection as tight and small as possible, whilst achieving good fullness. So I've actually had him just completely run low days throughout the week, and then we're going to do like a taper up, so a slightly high day today, slightly high day tomorrow, and then on show day just topping up the tank with a bit more from an energy perspective. But from an achieving fullness perspective, he will be full because of the 2 high days that came up at the end of the low days, or at least he will be close to full. He'll be topped up a little bit on show day. Realistically, gaining any more intramuscular glycogen on the show day itself is quite minimal. We had this chat before when we were peaking about sort of whether the show day foods have an effect, kind of thing. So especially again with relevance to smaller athletes, the goal on a show day shouldn't be fucking like, oh my god, I'm flat, let's fill up kind of thing. I saw on someone's Instagram story, he was like, I woke up flat, so I had a full English, and then I fucked it.
Well, why would you do that? Why would you do that? I mean, it's
I spilled. You're never gonna be bone starking full in the morning.
No.
Your blood pressure is low, your hydration status is minimal. You will not be full in the morning of your show. You will look flat. I guarantee what would have been better. Fuck off the full English. Drink one of these. Get a pump up band, and he would have been full.
Yeah, easy.
Or he would have been closer.
Honestly, sometimes it drives me nuts. Some of these people who have these crazy protocols. Again, I spoke to you about one of my posing clients yesterday. He came in, he posed. He's competing on Saturday, and his posings, in your words, was beautiful. Thank you. Very nice. But yeah, so the thing is with him, he is a natural athlete. He is very small. He's compromised a hell of a lot of tissue throughout it, but the way that he was prepped was very, very odd in a term. So he had lots and lots of cycling days. He had like 3 different types of days, and then had fats and no carbs on rest days. But his fats were like 120, for example. Sure. It was, and he's not a heavy guy. He's like 78 kilos or something. So he's not massively heavy either. But he did compromise a lot of muscle, and I just saw him kind of waste away over the 7 weeks that we were doing posing together. And then this week, he's had all of his sodium cut out. He's had 8 litres of water, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday.
Wow.
Thursday was his first carb up day, where I didn't know how many carbs that he was on, how many grams of carbs that he was on. But then his water, thankfully, he didn't cut his water. But, it was 8 litres, and then he went down to like 5 or something. So he still cut it down, but it wasn't out.
Sure.
But his carbs were like, a bowl of Frosties and that kind of thing, and then doing this weird kind of full body pump up workout that he had to do fasted.
Okay.
So he was doing fasted depletion training all the way through the week as well. And he was like, Vic, I felt like shit. I said, yeah, I'm not surprised. I go out for a walk when I haven't got any food on me, like a fasted walk or something with the dog just to get him out. Yeah. And I feel like death when I come back.
I mean, there is a potential bit of science behind doing the fasted training.
Definitely, and I'm not taking that away. But what
purely
I am
if he's trying to mobilise really stubborn fat, that's the only way that you potentially look at that.
Definitely, and he's lean. I mean, don't get me wrong, the guy's lean, so we could potentially look at it from that point of view. But it's the sodium, the water, various other manipulations like that. For natural people, it's not needed, in my personal opinion, all this sodium depletion, especially because he hasn't realistically been measuring his sodium throughout his prep anyway. So then he's like, okay, take it all out and then just put a fuckload in before you walk on stage. I mean, it's a bit, how are you going to react to that, Yeah,
I mean the only way I'd ever do that is if someone had already tried it. Like a sodium load pre-stage can be nice. It does aid you with sort of the ability to get a pump backstage. But what I've found is that just keeping sodium the same is usually the best protocol, and keeping it in throughout. So one of the things I've actually done in recent months is actually actively search to increase my sodium intake, so that when I next come to diet, I'm already starting off a very high intake. So I'm salting my meals like a lot right now.
And do you have any side effects from that? Like the puffiness and like we talk about having an off-plan meal and you have the high sodium and you get puffy. Do you have any of that when you first started?
Yeah, maybe initially, but your body adapts to whatever sodium intake you're at. So if you drink enough water to therefore match the sodium, the electrolyte balance, you'll catch up with yourself eventually.
Sure. It's more so when people, obviously, when they listen to these kind of things, I don't know if you get them, but I get lots of Instagram messages from people saying, oh, I'm trying this because you mentioned it on the Natty update. And it's just like, okay, if you try and update or increase your sodium levels, be prepared to have a little bit of puff for a while, but just kind of stick with it, because it is just like that high sodium meal that you have out with your family or whatever at that point.
Yeah.
But also try not to follow protocols that we're implementing as well, just like a bit of a caveat to it. Just because we do something, you don't have to do it.
Yeah, like, well, I mean, some of the things that we do are helpful. Like,
oh yeah, definitely, definitely. But it's
like taking out caffeine and things like that. Like, I see loads. I saw loads. As soon as we mentioned that once, loads of fucking people started not drinking caffeine.
I know, right?
We've set a trend here or something.
I know. And the 10-minute walks.
Yeah, the 10 minutes walks. Although, like, I got that from Stan Everding, and then people thought that it was my idea. It's not.
No, exactly. And Stan Efferding is pretty amazing, actually. I love his rhino rants.
Yeah, he just simplify things. You know, there's nothing special about eating foods that agree with you. He's just put it in a very simple way, and he explains it well. There's nothing special about eating like rice and steak and things that digest well. It's just eating things that fucking digest well. That's it.
Exactly.
You know, like if you have minimal gut issues, like then you're gonna be assimilating food better. You're gonna be feeling better. You know, you mentioned it yourself. You've had more bloating this week. You feel sluggish. That's normal. You know, like most people need to realize that. And someone messaged me the other day saying sort of like, oh, I've got what do you recommend I do now? Like my gut issues are really bad, and because my calories are high. And I'm like, no, your gut issues aren't bad because your calories are high. Your gut issues are bad because you're not aware of something that's either not agreeing with you, or there's something that you're doing that's not right. You shouldn't just accept that you're gonna have gut issues because your calories are high.
Yeah,
you can consume a large quantity of calories with no gut issues if you do it correctly and you do it well. But hardly anyone does that because they just deem, oh, my appetite's gone, so it's time to just eat a hideously high amount of processed foods and screw up my meal timing and just throw everything into the water. I've done that. You know, I've done that. I've been bloated on like 3,000 calories. I can't remember the last time I've been bloated, you know, because I just eat foods that, well, and I'm in a lucky position where, you know, I don't kind of deal with those things. But I know foods that agree with me and I only eat those foods and that's it. You know, it's part of the things that we've got to suck up.
That's it. And this is the thing, and that's why it's kind of so frustrating to the point where I've now got the bloat monster again, because it's obviously something that's so small, because my food is literally the same all the time now, and I don't care because, one, it makes me feel nice, and I like my food. You know, I like chicken and rice, I like steak and rice, I like sweet potatoes. So it's not a big thing, but it can be something as simple as a seasoning that you put on it.
Yeah.
You know, so like, you know, I mean, I only use single ingredient seasonings. So I use smoky paprika, obviously. Big shout out to Jack Thorburn for the smoky paprika. How many minutes are we in from that? 33. That's it. He messaged me last time and he was like, God damn it, you made it to like 39 minutes before having a Jack Thorburn burnout. But yeah, so 33, there you are. But yeah, so I only use single ingredient ones. But, you know, even things like that, or like onion powder, even though it's so minute, might set off that flare.
Yeah.
So it's just about finding it. But the point that I was trying to make about just because we do something, you don't automatically have to jump on the bandwagon and do it. It's the same thing as saying don't follow the pro's protocols.
Yeah.
So just because you see a pro who's assisted and an IFBB winner do something, it doesn't mean that you have to do it. That you can take the knowledge away from it and possibly trial it, but don't just think, well, because he does it, I'm going to do it.
100%.
You know, have a think about things. If the 10-minute walks just aren't your thing because you don't like walking out in nature, then okay, don't do it, you know?
Pin it off.
If you just don't like having chicken and rice and you like being bloated, well, that's kind of a weird thing to do, but
people are entitled to their own opinion, you know?
Exactly, right? So we're all different people. What did make me laugh, and that's a good point, actually, I got a message through not so long ago saying, are these egg whites that you have, AJ cooks them in a pan? And I'm like, yeah, they are egg whites.
She was joking, though. If that was from Holly, she was joking because she...
Was it Holly? I think it might have been Holly.
I think you posted it on your story. She listens to the podcast. She's one of my friends, and she was just playing with you. Because
I just thought it was funny because she was like, "You're one of the same person, aren't you?" I'm like, "Well, we can have slightly different things."
I swear to God, half the people that message me about recipes and food and stuff, hence why I never post my food anymore, because it's just ridiculous. But I swear they're just trying to piss me off. I swear
really?
they're just joking and they're just being sarcastic.
What,
But
like,
then
what
again,
from the
I
bowl?
get some serious questions and I'm like, fine, I have to answer them. And then if I post one of them on my stories, I'll get someone say, "Oh, you're such a dick. He's just asking." And I'm like, you try and receive 10 messages like this and reply to them every single one, very politely. Like
Yeah.
anyone that works a desk job or like a job where they get emails off like of annoying customers and things like that. Do you answer every one of them like super professionally, or do you secretly get really fucked off? Like, come
I think
on.
everybody gets secretly fucked off and then they write the professional email
Yeah, exactly,
because they'll have
exactly.
the email and go, "For fuck's sake, why are you saying that? Don't
Yeah,
be so ridiculous," and get all the rant out. And then they're like, "To whom it may concern."
yeah, exactly. Instagram, it's easy just to react really fast. That's why some of my reactions are like a little bit untapered.
Yeah. We like the tapering thing though. Okay, so one final thing on the deload. Food wise, in your deload, do you keep food exactly the same or
No
would you reduce
maintenance.
it down a little bit?
Maintenance calories.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, there's no when you're in a surplus. There's no need to eat in a giant surplus when you're deloading, because
Sure.
all you're gonna do is just gain additional fat, because your energy expenditure in the gym is down. So
Yeah.
it's you certainly don't want to be in a deficit. I don't
Mm.
think, because well, if you're quite deep and into an off season, deficit's fine. So actually, there's some relevance here. If you're in an off season, you're gaining and you're like decently high levels of body fat, maintenance. If you're in a deficit and you're dieting, maintenance. Because, and I mean maintenance, like not a deficit,
Yeah.
because you should, and by the decrease in energy expenditure through your sessions, keeping your calories the same, if you're not in a very aggressive deficit, should almost bring you closer to maintenance anyway. And then
Mm.
I like to top up some people. It depends where they are on a deficit. If they're very new into a deficit, no way. But if they're quite deep into a deficit, I'll raise up some carbs as well, so they get the extra reduction in training fatigue and a bit of diet fatigue reduction as well, so they get to
For sure.
crush the next week.
For sure.
So that's my opinion on that. But yeah, maintenance calories for me this week. Which has been fine. There's no issues with that from my perspective. I'm really disattached from food right now. I just don't. Well, even when I was dieting, I'm pretty disattached from food. I just don't. I don't really think about food or anything like that. I just eat and that's it. You know.
It's just one less thing to be thinking about, isn't it? Because you only have a certain amount of mental willpower to make those choices a day. So
Sure.
basically, it's like we talked about previously. If you take that choice away, it's one more thing that you can focus your brain power on.
Yeah.
Same thing with clothes. I mean, I don't really care what kind of clothes I wear at the moment because nothing really fits properly anymore. And I have to say, I think I'm making some gains on my back because I put on my new sports bra today that did actually come in the same size as my last ones, and I put it on and I was like, ah, shit, these are hurting on my lats.
Good.
I'm like, oh, that might be gains. That might be gains,
It will
possibly. So yeah, so it is. It's just taking that thought process away, isn't it? And that's why I keep my foods relatively the same. My routine is exactly the same because I just don't have to think about it anymore,
Perfect.
which is nice. But yeah, have you got any last little pointers to finish off on before we say goodbye?
Yeah, I think being guys, you when it comes to deloads, you'll get better at learning when you need to take one. It's all a learning curve. So don't be upset with yourself if you go too far and you get into a really big hole of training fatigue. You'll just have to take longer to dissipate that. But learning your ability to notice when you need to back off is very important. You should be doing that on a frequent basis.
Yeah, and actually back off. So
Yeah,
like we were
actually
talking
back off.
about,
It's really
yeah,
worth it.
actually back off.
It's really worth it because you'll only regret it. You'll only regret it when you come back and you want to crush it the next week and you can't. So yeah, we'll leave it there then, guys. Thanks again for listening. Should we do our silly little image thing?
M&M shot, that's it.
Cool.
Oh, you've got to be epic. I haven't got my thing on. That's all. Never mind. All right. 3, 2, 1.
Cool.
Epic. Okay, cool. So that's it from us, guys. Have a good weekend. Enjoy the sunny weather if you are experiencing it, and we'll catch you all next Friday.
Yep. See you in a bit, guys. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.